Hello and welcome back to the F2 show. I'm your host Fraser Ford, and joining me to look ahead to this weekend we have Inside F2 editor LA Wilshaw, Inside F2 writer Lawrence Griffin, and Formula 2's commentator for this weekend, Chris McCarthy. Coming up on the show then, lots to talk about as Formula 2 heads to Silverstone this weekend as we approach the halfway point of the season. The championship battle continues, we get the lowdown from our panel. And Formula 2 is heading down under for the first time next season, but can it afford to? We discuss all. Okay, let's get stuck into it then. Chris, we'll come to you first. Welcome to the show, first time on the show. First of all, how are you? And secondly, obviously you're going to be part of the Formula 2 commentary team at Silverstone this weekend, as we've just mentioned. How are you? Are you looking forward to that?
Oh, well, look, first of all, thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure to be on the show. I've been a follower of the channel for a long time. So thanks for having me on. It's great to talk with three people who know a lot about Formula 2 whilst we build up to a brilliant weekend of Formula 2 racing. I'm incredibly excited to be commentating on Formula 2. I started racing myself back in 2008, I think it was, and I've followed F2 ever since. So, I have memories of, watching Formula 2 back in sort of 2007, 2008. Will Buxton was a huge inspiration of mine. And then moving forward, Alex has been a huge inspiration to me as well. So to follow in their footsteps, it's going to be a real honour. I think Silverstone always tends to throw up some pretty dramatic races. So really, really excited for it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Alex. Obviously, big shoes to fill, but obviously you're more than capable of doing so. Have you spoken to him about commentating this weekend? Is he giving you any advice or?
Yes, he has. Alex has been, really nice about it. He's been very supportive with getting ready for it off the back of the last round, and I'm also going to be sort of speaking to him on the build up to this week as well. So I have to say a thanks to him, I guess, on this show as well, just for the support he's given me, because he didn't have to do that really. So a massive thanks to him, really. Likewise, Will was quite nice in his comments as well, so that was really kind. And Tom as well. Tom Gamer is someone I've known for a long time. He was the first person that ever helped me get into commentary back in 2014. So to be alongside him is quite comfortable as well. But Alex has been really kind and very supportive as well.
Yeah, a long journey by the sounds of it, but thoroughly well deserved, and we're really looking forward to hearing you in the comms box this weekend. LA, great to have you with us as always. It's British Grand Prix weekend. Happy days, right? And I believe you're off to Silverstone this weekend. Are you excited for it?
Yes, I am going to Silverstone as a accredited journalist for Inside F2. So I shall be in the F2 paddock, which will be amazing. I've managed to already make some very good friends in the Formula 2 paddock after being there numerous times, this season and the end of last season. So I'm very much a people person. I'm very sociable, and the work aside, I'm just very much looking forward to getting back in that paddock and seeing some familiar faces.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for you. I'm a little bit jealous as well. I do have to say, I'm jealous of anyone going to the British Grand Prix this weekend. But yeah, obviously, wishing you the best of luck for this weekend, LA. And Lawrence, coming up to the halfway point of the season, lots of stories up and down the grid. It could be a really important weekend this weekend, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could, as the story of the overall season sort of begins to play out, and we talk all through the beginning of the season as, this is a longer season than we've had before, and there's plenty still to play for. But then after Silverstone, we'll be looking at going, right, well, that's, we're nearly the halfway stage. And actually, there's a lot of work for the drivers that are slightly further behind to do. And if, Drogovic keeps the sort of lead that he still has, he looks like the nailed-on favourite for the title. So, yeah, this weekend will be really crucial in setting the tone for what's to come this year.
Yeah, really exciting to see how it all develops. Let's take a look at the championship standings heading into round 7 then. The story of the season so far has been Felipe Drugovic's dominance so far, as Lawrence has just alluded to. He extended his lead in the championship to 49 points last time out. Théo Pourchaire and Jehan Daruvala are his closest challengers. They'll be hoping to close the gap with some strong weekends at Silverstone this weekend. The rookies had a really strong weekend last time out. Logan Sargent currently sitting 4th in the standings. Dennis Hauger in 5th. They'll be hoping to continue their good form. And Marcus Armstrong rounds out the top 6. And the team standings? And it's still MP Motorsport at the top of the standings. However, they're under a lot of pressure from the ever-improving Prema team, who were the highest scorers last time out. Close battle between ART, High-Tech and Carlin. They sit 3rd, 4th and 5th in the standings. And Charouse round out the top 6. And the full standings are available on our website, www.insidef2.com. Okay, let's, as I said, get stuck into it then. Where to start? There's been lots going on. Chris, what have you made of the season so far? And I suppose what are you most looking forward to this weekend, other than commentating, of course?
Well, first of all, it's going to be good to be going back to a circuit, isn't it? We've been at the street circuits now back to back, Monaco and Baku, and I mean Baku's a massive street circuit, isn't it? And the racing there is always fantastic. But Silverstone is always been on the calendar ever since GP2 started, so it's going to be great to be back there. It's been a strange season in a way, hasn't it? I think the story of, or the word of the season has been consistency, really, and there's been one driver who's done that a lot better than anyone else. When you look at the championship table, there's a sea of red where there's just been incidents across the board for a lot of drivers, and Théo Pourchaire now seems to be trying to catch back up, really. But Felipe Drugovic has just gelled with MP Motorsport so well, and when you consider that their best result in a drivers' championship is 9th, the fact that they're leading so comfortably is just so impressive, really. So you have to really hand it to them. There is still a long way to go. This will bring us to the halfway stage, but it's been hugely impressive, and it shows just how much of a lead you can build if you start to get some wins and podiums together in F2. You can really put some big points on the board and extend the gap. But yeah, that midfield battle as well is very interesting. I think there's 18 points. I think it is between 4th down to Frederic Vesti. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch this weekend, to see if anyone jumps up the order. Someone could jump up about 6 places if they have a really good weekend in that midfield battle as well.
Yeah, lots going on, and as you say, I mean, Felipe Drugovic this season so far has just been immense, hasn't it? What have you made of that, Chris? In terms of it's not over, is it? But I mean, that's a big gap to close for Théo Pourchaire.
Yeah, it is, but I guess he extended it quite quickly, so it can be closed quite quickly as well. Felipe Drugovic isn't someone who's won a championship for a little while now, so eventually, if he finds himself leading it, the pressure is going to start to get to him. Théo Pourchaire is probably a bit more of a comfortable driver leading championships, isn't he? Given he's the top seed coming into this season, and he did very, very well when he was in FIA F3 as well. But yeah, it's just been so good to see him show such great consistency, really. Felipe Drugovic, he's done so well, and I think it just shows if you gel with a team, how well you can do, how quickly you can put points on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. LA 2 points last time out for Théo Pourchaire. A little bit of a disappointing weekend. Not something we're used to seeing from Théo Pourchaire. He'll be looking to bounce back this weekend, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was very disappointing for everybody, because I think that nobody wants to see the championship sewn up this far in advance. We all want a bit of a fight and a bit of a battle. So it's really amazing to see Théo, progress through the championship himself. I mean, I think he's had sort of 7 straight races where he has finished in the points. So it's not been the most atrocious championship for him, but he is at 49 points in arrears. What's sitting there on his 83. But a couple of wins. He had a couple of wins in Bahrain and Imola, and of course the second place in Monaco. But he has to watch his back, because we also have Jehan and Logan and Dennis, sort of snapping at his heels, and they only need a win or a couple of podiums, and they'll be above him. He'll lose that slot if he's not careful. So this weekend, he's really got to dig deep, and get his head in the game. And even considering you've just mentioned, his teammate Frederick Vesti, who could be looking at quite a good weekend ahead. So first of all, beat your teammate, and then try and get everybody else in order as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You've mentioned a few names there. Logan Sargent was someone I wanted to speak about, Lawrence. Obviously, he's really coming into his own. Yet to win a race yet in Formula 2. But could this weekend be the weekend for him that he picks up his first win in the series?
Well, why not? He's been growing in confidence. He's been so consistent, as you say. Perhaps he hasn't quite shown the outright pace to win any races at the moment. He got close, of course, in Baku, finishing second, and he had to have a really calm head to navigate through the chaos that is any Baku race almost. Perhaps a sprint race win might be more sort of achievable. But actually, he's been so good in qualifying so often that he's tended to be starting in the middle of the top 10 somewhere in most races. And that doesn't always give you the best chance of a race win. So his results so far this season have been so much more impressive than the sort of headline no race wins suggests. And that's how he's got up to fourth in the championship as the highest scoring rookie so far in a season where we've sort of seen how human rookies are. When Oscar Piastri came in last season and blew everybody away in his maiden season, which is not normal at all. And so we've seen those rookies struggle, but he's come out pretty much on top of all of those. And if you take Jeddah out of the equation, where he was P12 and retired in Jeddah, he's been in the top 10 every race so far this season, and that's a really incredible run. So he is a rookie. He's growing in confidence. He's building his knowledge every time he steps in that car. So this weekend is definitely an opportunity for him to get that first race win. I think most people watching would be happy to see that as well.
It's the irony of it, isn't it? That the fact that he hasn't got a win yet, but you're right, it's because he is qualifying in the middle of the top 10, which is brilliant, because he's doing well in the feature races, he's doing well in qualifying. But yeah, well, I think I'll speak on behalf of us all when we say that we hope Logan Sargent can maybe go to that next level and pick up a win, because I think that would be great for Formula 2. Chris, I want to talk about Jehan Daruvala, fresh off the back of a Formula 1 test with McLaren. Will that give him a bit of a confidence boost heading into this weekend?
Oh, absolutely. It means he can now apply for his super license, doesn't it? He put, I think it was 130 laps on the board. The team gave very positive feedback as well. And I think when you've driven an F1 car, jumping back into an F2 car, it's going to seem a bit easier to drive, isn't it? All of a sudden, the track, and it's going to give him a bit of a head start as well. He's put 130 laps around Silverstone, where everyone else has only been able to go in the sim. So absolutely, it's going to give him a huge amount of confidence going into this weekend. He's chasing that first feature race win, isn't he? And who knows, maybe it can be this weekend where he goes and gets that. But I think, the F1 test with McLaren, the positive feedback he got and the amount of lap times he put in, definitely is going to give him a good head start going into qualifying this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, is that the motivation that he needs? Going to really get, going to spur him on for the rest of the season, knowing that you mentioned about the super license, knowing that he could potentially, Formula One is a possibility next year. Now he has those super license points. Whether or not, that he's in the Red Bull system, and that's a difficult system to get through to Formula One in, but he has the super license points. Is that going to, motivate him and hopefully take him on to that next level?
I mean, teams don't look at drivers unless they're interested in taking them on. I don't think that McLaren would have put him in a car for 130 laps if they didn't see some kind of interest there. It's been 10 years since we last saw an Indian driver in Formula One. There's definitely going to be a lot of interest around that, but not only that, it's the pace he's shown in Formula 2 as well, which has put him in that seat. So I think it is. I think it is definitely going to give him that extra bit of confidence that he's now got in the F1 car. He's done very well, and in a good F1 car as well. It wasn't in an F1 car that trails around at the back of the field. This is in a winning F1 car that won at Monza last year. It was that same car, wasn't it? He's driven a winning car now, so why can't he go and race that in a couple of seasons or even next season? Who knows? So, yeah, I think that's going to give him a huge amount of confidence. It's different from someone just telling him he can be an F1. All of a sudden now he's driving one. So yeah, I'm interested to see how he goes this weekend. Now, definitely.
Yeah, good stuff. Prema looking good as well, so he should have a good chance this weekend. Another team that are looking good, LA, Charoux into the top 6. Is this their best season in Formula 2 so far?
Surprisingly, no. I mean, we can go look at last year. They didn't have the greatest time last year. But if you look back to 2018, 2019 and 2020, they had incredible seasons. 2018, they had Louis Delatraz and Antonio Fuoco with 8 podiums, 2 wins and 22 races in the points that they finished in. And then if you look at 2019, you had Juan Manuel Correa, Callum Ilott. They had 2 podiums each and they finished 15 races in the points. But I'm a bit more impressed with 2020, even though they finished 7th that year. Louis Delatraz, a mammoth 16 races alone in the points with 2 podiums. So to me, it looks like Charoux getting their mojo back this season. Still, as I said, not the greatest season. They've had other great seasons, but they're certainly getting the mojo back with Enzo Fittipaldi. You got that podium, his first, second place in Formula 2 at Imola and the 4th in Monaco, so just close to that podium again. And with David Beckman as well, finishing 8th in Imola when he stepped in place of Jem Bollock-Bassi. They've finished six races in the points. And, Jem, we know he's had his struggles after the accident and not being able to compete. But he's also finished P14 and P11, P12. So he's actually not too far behind. He's not doing too badly either. So, yeah, I wish them the best of luck. They're a great little team, a great outfit, and I'm looking forward to seeing those guys this weekend as well.
Chris, I believe you've commentated on Jem Bollock-Bassi as an esports driver. Am I right by saying that? Is that going to be, I suppose, quite a surreal experience going from esport and then both of you in Formula 2?
Yeah, I tell you what, I commentated on him in his first ever single-seater race, actually. It was at Hockenheim in Formula Renault Eurocup. He'd got the call on the Wednesday to ask him, did he want to go and do this race? And he turned up on the Friday. He'd never driven the car before, never driven the track before. Half the weekend was wet, half the weekend was dry. And he went from being got a few seconds off the pace, and by the end of the weekend, he was just over a second off the pace. And it was a tremendous performance. I mean, one of the races, he did a slow start on purpose because it was wet. The first race was wet and he'd never driven the car in the wet before. And he just said, I'm going to let them go and just hang back a little bit. And he stayed with the pack the whole race. Unfortunately, the second race, the car broke down on him, but he was a really nice kid to go and meet. He'd driven in esports before then, and I think he'd done a couple of car races before that as well. I can't remember what exactly, but yeah, that was the last time I commentated on him actually. So it's going to be really cool to do that again.
Yeah, great story for Jem Bollock-Bassi. Real fairy tale in Formula 2 terms. Now, home race for High Tech this weekend. Of course, Yuri Vips under investigation by Red Bull. He's been suspended for using discriminative language on a live stream. We, like the rest of the motorsport community, await the outcome of the investigation. But everyone at Inside F2 believe that motorsport should be inclusive, and we do not condone the use of racist language of any kind. Okay, home race as well for Virtuosi this weekend. They came away from Baku with only 4 points from the weekend. They need a strong weekend this weekend, don't they, Chris? They need to bounce back at their home race.
Yeah, absolutely. Virtuosi Racy, I guess it's been a bit of an up and down season for them, but this would be a great chance for them now, coming up to the halfway stage of the season to go and get some good points on the board. And Silverstone's always a good track to do that. I think this is one of the tracks on the calendar where you can really go and overtake, isn't it? I mean, Baku was definitely one of those as well with the amount of straights. But yeah, I think so as well. I think it has been a bit up and down for them, and they've done really well in qualifying, haven't they? They've had some great performances in qualifying, but it just hasn't been able to convert in the races. So hopefully they can get another good qualifying performance this weekend and go and convert that and get themselves on the podium.
Yeah, I think Jack Doohan will be hoping for the same. He's not quite had the luck with him this season, has he? But yeah, let's wait and see there. No announcement yet at the time of recording about who will be replacing Marie Cordeal in the second VAR seat, although knowing Inside F2's luck, it will be announced the second we press the stop button on this podcast and before it goes out. But we mentioned David Beckman about potentially replacing him. Potentially, LA, you mentioned a Formula 3 driver who could potentially step up or do both the Formula 2 or Formula 3 race weekends. But Lawrence, if it was to be David Beckman, would you be confident that he would jump in the car and do a good job?
Definitely. I don't think there can be too many questions about David Beckman's quality, especially after, as LA mentioned, he finished 8th in Imola on what was a really, really tricky weekend with the weather. And then, of course, he has experience of these cars, but you still have to get back into the car and readjust. And doing that so quickly actually was really, really quite impressive. And he'll want to remind everyone of his quality after losing his F2 seat last season, moving from Charouz to Campos, and then not having a seat by the end of the season. He sort of didn't have a fair run at it, really, last season. That instability, I don't know how much that can impact the driver's performance, but it's got to make it really difficult for you. So, yeah, it would be interesting to see what he can do. And also, from a team perspective, there's been quite an offset in performance between Hughes and Cordeal at VAR so far this season. So, and of course, we know that they've been having issues with tyre temperatures and making the tyres last the distance. So someone with a bit more experience like David Beckman can perhaps come in and give them more valuable data and give them some more feedback and help the team move on. And it'll be interesting to see how close he can get to Jake Hughes as well. So I think if he does turn up this weekend as we sort of expect that he will, he can definitely be a real asset to VAR.
Yeah, a driver with a lot of quality, a lot of experience, and I think he could do a really good job at VAR. Let's wait and see who ends up in the seat. Okay, in other news, it was announced that Formula 2 and Formula 3 will be heading down under next season, with Formula 2 headlining the undercard of the 2023 Formula 1 Australian Grand Prix. I don't know about you guys, I'm really excited about this. Chris, what were your initial thoughts when you saw that Formula 2 was heading down under?
Oh, very excited. Everyone loves the Melbourne race, don't they? And I think the drivers are going to be really pumped for this. Not only that, the teams as well. What a trip that is to go to Australia. I think they're going to absolutely love it. I think the teams are going to make a proper holiday out of it, aren't they? So yeah, I getting paid to go down there for the teams is going to be brilliant, isn't it? But they broke their record attendance, didn't they, this season, Melbourne? And I think they have the highest ever in history. So yeah, what a place to go and race and for the F2 and F3 drivers. And it's a place that has its place on the F1 calendar and always will. So yeah, so why not? It's a new part of the world for Formula 2 to go and race at as well. We've been to some fantastic places with the championship. And I think it's really great. You know, obviously there were some people that frowned upon it a little bit. It is quite far, yes, but I think it's going to be worth the trip. You know, it's taking F2 drivers to a brand new part of the world, and these record attendance crowders are going to be watching them, following them all of a sudden, and their profiles are just going to explode in a brand new part of the world. That's got to be a good thing for me. That's got to be worth it.
Yeah, really excited. And LA agree, excited for it. And I think there'll be a lot of, we've got a few Aussie drivers in Formula 2, Formula 3, home Grand Prix or home race for them. They'll be excited for that as well, right?
It is, yeah. It's definitely so exciting for home racers, but I also feel maybe even the New Zealanders in the pack might feel it's just sort of next door kind of thing. And although it's not home as in home, we know it's a different country, of course it is, but I still feel that they might have that same feeling as well. And I'm sure that they're just as excited to be able to even get to see their family and friends and get them over to a race. But I do feel it'll be really beneficial for some of these young drivers that are heading into Formula One, to go across those different time zones, to experience what a short weekend does to disrupt that circadian rhythm in your body, because they're not there for long enough. They'll just about acclimatize, but then they'll be looking at turning around and going elsewhere. And that's actually really valuable experience that you're not aware of unless you actually do these kind of trips. Will it be an additional race? Will it be a 15th race weekend, or will it replace one? I'm not sure if we know the answer to that yet, but I'm hoping it will be an increase. It will be on top of, because that will also then benefit the drivers, get used to more race weekends in case they do take that step into Formula One.
Lawrence, as excited as we are for it, do we have to question the impact that it's going to have on the teams financially? Presumably, that's going to be a big chunk of each team's budget for next season. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, without wanting to rain on the parade too much, that it is a big trip out there to Australia, and it's not a huge amount of time to prepare everything for next season, and to budget for a round in Australia versus European rounds. It must be quite different. And of course, many teams will be running in F3 at the same time, so there really will be a big stress on the team. And if you're having people who are out there who are jet lagged, the teams, the mechanics doing pit stops, that could cause all kinds of headaches and maybe a bit of extra chaos for us to enjoy as well. Of course, F2 already travels far and wide to Bahrain, Jeddah, Abu Dhabi, but Australia is a fair bit further afield than all of those. And with the wealth of tracks that are available in Europe, there is a question about is it financially and environmentally the right call? But it will be brilliant for Australian fans to enjoy F2 and F3. And in terms of the finances, these and the sort of logistics of it, these teams are experienced, they're well set up now, and I'm sure that everyone in Formula One will be making sure that they can make the appropriate arrangements for it. What everyone involved wants is the longevity of these teams. That has to be paramount, that this isn't going to put too much pressure on them. So I have confidence that that won't be an issue come next year. And we get to see F2 and F3 cars racing around that track. And, are we likely to see, as we do so often, that those guys can find overtaking opportunities where it's not possible in F1, especially with the alterations that have been made to the circuit in recent years? I think that could be a really, really brilliant race. That whole middle sector that's just been straightened out a little bit, how much extra opportunity will that grant us? So I think with the slight asterisk next to it, with the slight financial doubts over how exactly it's going to work out, it should be a really positive weekend for Formula 2.
Yeah, I think so as well. And we know the carnage that Formula 2 can produce. And Formula 1 has had a few chaotic races around Melbourne over the years, hasn't it? So, really excited for it. Chris, don't quote me on this, okay? Don't quote me on this. But I believe that the fact that will be the third continent that Formula 2 will be visiting means that it will categorise the series as a world championship. Is that a good step for the series? And does that impact, from a marketing perspective? Does it make Formula 2 a more marketable series to sponsors, for example, and development that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. A world championship is there's nothing bad about that as a title, is there? So I really do think so. That it is definitely. I don't see why it would be a bad thing if it does become a world championship. I think it only makes it a better thing for me and for drivers. Some of them are going to be used to this extra trip They do things like the Toyota Racing Series down in New Zealand. They would have done that over the years. Formula Regional Asia is what they usually do on the build up to the season. For the drivers, it won't be a bigger trip. It's more, as Lawrence said, it's going to be more for the teams. So it's going to be really hard. But I think the World Championship title just makes it even more prestigious. It's a prestigious championship enough already, Formula 2, and I think this makes it even more so.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear Alex Jakes crowning a Formula 2 world champion next year, or potentially Chris McCarthy crowning a Formula 2 world champion. Let's wait and see. You never know. But yeah, I think it's really positive news, isn't it? And I think, really looking forward to that. Okay, that is all we have time for today, unfortunately. My thanks to Chris, to LA, and to Lawrence for joining me on today's show. If you've enjoyed the show, make sure you give it a like, subscribe for more Formula 2 content. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments. Hashtag the F2 show to get involved in the conversation. But from me, Fraser Ford, and all of us here at Inside F2, we'll see you next time.